Icicle Inn, 27 November 1983. Saige Sawffenn, daughter of Maya and Matthew Sawffenn, was born. Brown curly hair, deep dark green eyes, and a palish skin tone. The girl grew up in a snowy town for 5 years. In 1988, January 8th, the family moved to the city of Midgard, looking for new job opportunities, living in Sector Number 1 in the Upper Plate. Matthew Sawffenn became a lab researcher, working in the Research and Development Division of the Shinra Company, working alongside Dr. Hojo. Maya Sawffenn became a housewife, educating Saige in the meantime. Saige, at the age of 6, started to develop interest in the Shinra Turks. In 1990, Matthew Sawffenn, at the age of 40, committed suicide due to the increasing feeling of guilt related to all the experiments he participated, leaving Maya and young Saige alone. Maya kept the suicide of her husband hidden from their child. When asked why the parental figure didn't return home, Maya, forced to answer with a lie, told that Matthew had died from a very rare disease. In 1993, Saige, by the age of 11, along with her mother, moved to the slums of Sector Number 5, thinking it would be a better way to hide from the Shinra spies, observing her to make sure that she wouldn't spread any rumors. Maya became friends with Elmira, who had adopted Aerith Gainsborough. Months later, Maya started to show signs of anxiety and paranoia, while Saige started to avoid people, other children, developing antisocial behavior. On the 23rd of August of 1994, Saige met Aerith. The two met at the Sawffenn household at the entry, Elmira and Maya chatting, the girl being next to her mom. Saige would notice Aerith, she hurried upstairs. But by the age of 16, Saige had grown closer to Aerith, building a friendship over time. In year 0, February 18, Saige joined the Turks as an intern. She had established a friendship with the Turk Cisne, who quickly accepted Saige as a friend. She grew close to both Reno and Rude, two Turks who guided her and helped her grow her combat and agility skills, so she could become part of the team. She did meet Song, who she expressed to not enjoy his presence, but kept a professional relationship nonetheless. Eventually, Saige did indeed become an official Turk on the 3rd of October of the same year. She eventually met Verdot, who gave her first assignment. In January of the year 1, Saige was given the task to watch over Cetra while Song was absent on a mission in Costa del Sol. She was given a brief lesson on who the Cetra were and their role on the planet, eventually discovering that her old friend of the slums was an ancient. She went back to the slums, searching for the young Cetra who was in the old church. The girls interacted most of the time Saige was given that assignment, growing closer to the Cetra. In April of the same year, Saige met Zach Fair, a first-class soldier who had fallen through the Sector 5's top plate into the infamous church under it, where he met Aerith. Both had established a friendship. In May, it was noted by Song that Saige had sparked an interest in swords, using a typical soldier sword as her main weapon of choice, keeping a small handgun under her uniform's coat. In October 14th, Saige was caught breaking protocol to visit her mother to celebrate the eldest birthday by Reno and Rude, who immediately reprehended the girl, even though Song only became aware of the event when Reno briefly mentioned it years after the small incident. In November, Saige turned 18 years old. In year 2, Saige was assigned to go to Icicle Inn alongside the Turks to investigate the abduction of 2 soldier members, but due to unidentified reasons, Saige was ordered to retreat to Midgard. On February, Verdot is let go from his position, being replaced by Heidegger, who Saige found arrogant and self-absorbed, according to Song's personal notes. On the 9th of August of that same year, the terrorist cell known as Avalanche had planned to use Aerith to guide them to the so-called Promised Land in order to protect it from Shinra, which the young Cetra refused. Saige, who had been watching over the girl, came to her rescue along with the rest of the Turks. After the event, she watched as Song tried to convince the Cetra to come along and work for Shinra, noticing a member of the Turks allowing Aerith to run back home. Saige, seeing this, followed Aerith to her home to check if her friend was hurt during the whole conflict. During the following weeks, Saige was given a time of vacation to spend with her mother, who was sick at the time being. Saige during this time was replaced on surveillance duty by Reno and Rude, who both kept an eye on Aerith and on Saige. In October, the Nibelheim incident made it to the local news, where Saige became aware of what had happened. She became anxious, knowing that one of her friends, Zach, was sent to Nibelheim in that occasion, not knowing if the young man was injured or not. On the 6th of November, Saige was back on duty, her first assignment being sent to Nibelheim to explore the area in search for any traces of Sephiroth, the war hero. None was found. In year 3, January 3rd, Saige is sent along with the rest of the Turks to infiltrate the Avalanche base located in Wutai. In May, Saige was sent to Karel, where the Avalanche group had taken over a reactor located in the town. It was discovered that Rufus Shinra was funding the terrorist group. In that same month, it was sent to Saige a letter written by someone that remained anonymous, the content of the letter being limited to a warning and nothing else. In October of the year 6, Saige was dispatched along with the Turks to Cosmo Canyon in order to collect a member of an endangered species for Dr. Hojo. When at the canyon confronting the two feline-alike beings, one of them ran away. Saige started to pursue it until she was stopped by someone. There was no conflict between the both of them. The one appearing to be a human male stood in front of Saige, not allowing her to keep running behind the specimen found, until the Turks had successfully captured the other creature, which drove the male figure to launch an attack towards the group. The man was stopped by Saige, who according to Tsong's report, had led to a physical combat. Saige coming out slightly injured, but victorious. In December of the same year, Saige was informed by Cisne that Zack and a former infantryman named Cloud, who were previously locked up in the Shinra Manor lab, had escaped, leaving Saige worried. Cisne was then sent to Nibelheim, leaving the girl in Midgard. She asked for permission to join Cisne in order to find Zack, but it was refused. At this time, Saige had started to become suspicious of the company she was working for. In the year 7, Saige became more distant from her family and friends, rarely visiting her mother and refusing to be in surveillance duty to watch over Aerith. Saige was reported to be found in a library, looking up the history behind Shinra. According to Tsong, she claimed to be studying to become more aware of the history of the company she works for. Around March, Saige was dismissed of most missions and duties due to her strange behavior. When she was alone, Saige continued to dig deep, trying to find the truth behind all of the whole Shinra deal. This led to the girl to remember her late father, who had died working for the same company, leading her to search for Matthew's files. The end of September had arrived. The word of the death of Soldier First Class Zack Fair had reached Saige through a report that Song had given to the team. The news left Saige devastated, knowing it was all Shinra's fault. She knew that Aerith was close to the young man, so she ended up visiting her old friend to comfort her. October came. Saige at the time was completely dismissed of all missions and duties outside of simple tasks, giving her an advantage to spend more time searching for the answers she was looking for. This led her into the Shinra archive she had found in Nibelheim's manor. She had been searching for hours. She had found the files of many of the people she had heard of before, including Sephiroth's. She never knew the reason why Sephiroth went rogue in the first place, so she took a look. She became aware of Dr. Hojo's Project J, known as the Genova Project. She learned that Sephiroth was the main subject of Project S, being injected with Genova cells when inside the womb. Saige was dumbfounded, reading along the research done by one Professor Gast. This concerned the girl, questioning if her dear father had participated in such cruel experiments and projects. In November, when Saige had completed 24 years of age, she was focused on finding what had happened to her father. When back to Midgard, she was informed by Reno that Song ordered him to keep an eye on her due to her mysterious visit to Nibelheim in the previous month. Saige was forced to put a pause on her personal duties, hiding it from her friend who now had to look over her. December came, and Saige had told Reno and Rude about her doings, explaining that she wanted to know what had happened to her late father. Somehow, both Reno and Rude had agreed to help her go to the archives in the Shinra building, even though Rude showed some concern and hesitation, afraid of being caught. Reno guided her to the archives, where Saige heard her fellow colleague wish her good luck. Saige tried to act as fast as she could, knowing her time was limited. She kept on looking until she eventually found Matthew Sawffenn's files. She sat on the floor, reading every bit of information. She discovered that her father was indeed an accomplice on some of the experiments that were done, which left her disappointed. Eventually, she had reached the end, where it was told that Matthew had died from an unknown disease. When closing the file, she noticed a sheet of paper on the floor that had fallen from the folder. Saige read it carefully. She then gasped, a previous disappointment turning into a void of sadness and shock. She read it again. She now knew the real reason of her father's death. She had realized that her own father couldn't handle his work. He couldn't stand working for Shinra. There was a small letter attached to the paper. It read,
"For my dearest wife, Maya Sawffenn, I've tried everything. I tried to keep us alive and with a roof to cover our heads. But this has gone too far. My ambitions of creating cures for many diseases and making the world a better place are completely gone, destroyed by the pure agony and overflowing guilt that I feel every single day when I enter the lab, when I'm with him. I can't keep on living like this, knowing that what I have done has no way to reverse back, knowing that I'm part of the bad side of the history of the world. My sweetheart, take good care of our little Saige. I promise to always be looking at you when I go away. You have given me the most magical and happiest of times. Meeting you was the best thing that has happened in my now worthless life. I will always love you, my dear. For my little angel Saige, I want you to know that Daddy is very proud of the smart young lady you are becoming, but like me, you struggle to make friends. My sweet little baby, please obey Mommy. Take care of her if she ever becomes sick. Try meeting new people. Make friends to keep you company. The world might try to bring you down, but I'll know that you'll always get back up on your feet, ready to fight back. You are capable of so much, Saige. And no matter what, keep moving on. Daddy will always love you, my sweetest little bean. Farewell."
Saige was speechless, tears already falling off her face, leaning on the letter written by her dad. She wanted to scream, her hands shaking. She heard footsteps. She quickly picked her father's file and made her way out, but when reaching the exit, she was stopped by 3 infantrymen who were ordered to search for her. According to Tsang's report, Saige ended up putting a fight, somehow escaping the men and running away, deserting. In December 19th, Saige sent a letter to Aerith.
Hey, Aerith. If this reaches you, I want you to know that I'm currently being sent away, and I don't know if I'll ever come back to Midgard. I've recently found out some dirt about Shinra, and I don't know what they'll do to me. I want you to know that you've always helped and cared for me. It makes me think that I don't deserve a friend like you. Such a sweetheart and caring soul like you should be protected at all costs. I might have joined the Turks, who you see as the enemy, but I hope that never interfere with our friendship. I'll always care for you, and if I make it back, I promise to give you the biggest bear hug you'll ever experience. And if my mother asks you about me, please tell her that I'm doing fine. I don't want her to get worried. She has suffered way too much that she can endure. Please take care, Aerith. I hope to see you soon."
On the 22nd of December, Saige was found in Junon by the Turks, who were sent there to capture her. Tsang offered her to come peacefully, but Saige refused. Both Reno and Wood were there, along with Sisney, who told Saige that they could negotiate her sentence, but Saige didn't care. All that she had in mind was revenge, to hurt Shinra, to destroy, to avenge a late father who had become a victim of it. She launched herself towards Tsang, injuring him in the left leg. 2 infantrymen saw the scene, and without any warning of sorts, one of them shot Saige in the chest. Saige let out a scream, falling on the ground, Rude, Reno, and Sisney looking away. By the year 8 through 9, Saige was Dr. Hojo's lab rat, the madman injecting Genova cells into the young woman while in a comatose state. He bathed her in Mako to see how it would affect her body. He began to take notes on how her body was reacting to the side effects. She had been sleeping unconscious in a Mako tank for a year, her brown curls becoming wavy, almost straight white hair, its length reaching her waist. Her skin remained pale, her body becoming fragile. In year 9, Saige had awakened, breaking out of the tank, but soon falling off the floor. With all the strength she had, she made her way out of the place. only having an oversized hospital gown hiding her skin, her left shoulder being visible. On the reflection of a glass, she noticed a big dark stain on her uncovered shoulder. Saige stood perplexed, wondering what that stain was. She eventually makes out of the building, which was abandoned due to former events. She made her way outside, blindly walking away from the facility, not knowing where she was going. She just wanted to reach somewhere, a place that offered refuge and at least a roof. Walking around, she felt weak and lost, seeing everything around her destroyed in pieces. Saige ended up in a familiar place, the church that was from Sector 5. She walked in, but as soon as she did, her whole body was paralyzed, an agonizing pain on her dirty shoulder. Saige couldn't handle the pain as she ended up collapsing on the wooden floor. Saige had awakened, laying down on a comfortable mattress with a sheet covering her. She slowly sat up, rubbing her eyes, noticing two figures looking over her. A young woman beside her, with a young girl next to her, both observing her. The black-haired girl introduced herself, Tifa Lockhart, and the girl next to her, Marlene. Tifa gave Saige an explanation on what she had on her body. Geostigma. Marlene told Saige that a boy named Denzel had the same disease, as well as someone named Cloud, who according to Tifa was the man who brought her to the bar, finding her unconscious on the floor of the old church. Marlene ended up explaining that Midgar was mightily destroyed by a meteor that fell 2 years prior, and since the city was not adequate to live anymore, they were now living in a new city called Edge that was just outside the previous city of Mako. Days after her arrival, the children went missing. Saige, with now proper clothing that Tifa had lended her, went on the search for them. Searching around, she ended up going outside Edge, thinking that the kids may have gone back to the abandoned city. She ended up on her childhood sector, making her way to the church and hoped to find the kids there. She enters the abandoned structure, making her way to the flowers at the other corner of the place. She searches every inch of the church, nobody to be found. She stood close to the flowers, staring at them. Suddenly, her whole body jerked. She fell on her knees on top of the flowers, her head hurting as if someone was stabbing her repeatedly. She went limp, black drops falling off her affected shoulder, her vision going black, eventually fainting once again. She woke up to a guy lightly shaking her body. He had dark brown hair and dark eyes. He helped Saige stand up and introduced himself. Ezekiel Giles. He explained that he was returning to Midgard to visit some friends of his. They both heard some noises outside and went outside the church to see what was happening. 3 men, silver hair and green eyes, were causing chaos throughout the city of Edge. Both stayed inside the church to avoid any danger. Saige holding on to her left shoulder, the stigma affecting her even more. To try and distract Saige from her current state, Ezekiel spoke to her, having a normal conversation to keep her from panicking, when suddenly a roar from a motorcycle struck. They peeked and saw a guy with silver hair holding a box close to his chest. They observed him until a blonde man showed up, evading the church in pursuit of the other man. Ezekiel mentioning that he knew the blonde guy, calling him Cloud, which Saige instantly recognized as the man whom Marlene had previously talked about in one of their conversations. Eventually, the loud noises disappeared. Seeing this as a sign that the coast was clear, both went outside to check how everything was. When going back to Edge, they noticed Cloud finding a tall man with long silver hair next to the ruins of the Shinra building. Both identified the man to be Sephiroth. They quickly took refuge, making their way to the edge of Midgard using Ezekiel's motorcycle. Their fight had ended, Cloud coming out victorious. When near Edge, Saige and Ezekiel made a quick stop, looking at the ruins of Midgard. Saige felt raindrops hitting her skin, Ezekiel noticing her dark stain going away. She watched as the geostigma slowly disappeared. She took a deep breath, enjoying the droplets of water falling from the sky. But she had this feeling she couldn't comprehend. She felt as if someone dear to her was close to her, with her eyes widening as she realized who had sent the healing rain. Her childhood friend, the only living Cetra, Aerith. Months passed by. Saige got to know the whole group, including Barrett, Marlene's father, Yuffie, Sid, Vincent, and Nanaki, known as Red 13, who recognized Saige, but when asked how, he didn't give an answer. The world was at peace once more, but something had happened. The ground was shaking. Parts of buildings were starting to float, a black void appearing in the air, sucking everything down from land. Cloud and the party went outside to check what it was. Ezekiel and Saige falling behind. They questioned it, nobody knowing what it was. When helping people, Saige saw herself and Ezekiel being pulled from the ground. Both tried resisting to the mysterious force. Cloud and the rest of the party saw them and went to rescue them. Cloud holding Saige's hand and Tifa holding Ezekiel's, trying to keep both on the ground. But the strength of the void was unmatched. Saige's hand eventually slipped, as did Ezekiel's. Both ended up floating towards the void. Saige looked down to see her friends' faces showing pure fear. She started to feel weak, her whole body losing strength, muscles going limp. She looked at Ezekiel, who had given up on resisting, then looked down at her friends. After that, everything went black.